people, and welcome to the Amateur Hour. My name's Justin,
And I'm the one called Junior.
and today we're sponsored by EBXYA and Lofty Cat Studios, and a friend of the show, Adam Stone. And with that said, we have a glorious guest with us, the one and only Red Tiger Clan. We have Shirky, 007, also known as Corey,
What's up, guys?
and we have Austin, also known as Kensky, 007, back again to say hello.
Hello.
So, how are you guys? Welcome, and how are you guys doing? How's it been? It's been a couple of days actually. I'm not gonna elude the people and tell them that this was weeks away, even though it's gonna be up in a couple of weeks. So what have you guys? How actually, Corey? I asked Austin already. How have you been faring with this quarantine going on?
It's been kind of crazy, I guess. I work in the hospital system, so it's a little bit more wild down here in Indy. I guess there's a lot more of those COVID cases, but I work at Methodist Hospital, so it's like the fifth biggest hospital in the nation, I think. So it's pretty nuts. But right now, it's kind of like a ghost town there. It's just workers and everybody, wearing face masks and gloves and taking the proper precautions. But I think we have like close to 2,000 cases down here in Indy right now. So got to be a little bit more careful. But other than that, just been chilling at home and gaming.
Oh, I know.
Nothing really else to do, just hanging out.
Yeah. I mean, with the recent climate, I'm glad you kind of mentioned it a little bit, but people have been following the precautions down there because I don't know if everyone's following it. Like, for instance, when I was at the store the other day, no masks, no gloves. Some people are just walking around like their life doesn't depend on it.
Yeah.
So,
That's
what about have you experienced that at all, Austin, where people are just walking down, not really uh, partaking in the safety that they should take in?
Oh, definitely. One of the stories is actually this. I have this lady was actually being, in my opinion, just a little too cautious. She this was when it all started. It was like a couple days in. My parents decided they wanted to, since my dad's not working at all, like he works for the Cherokee Nation, so he's still getting paid, but they're not doing anything right now. So he needed a project to do while he was off this whole time, and they went and bought a ton of like gardening stuff. Right now they're building like a actual garden. They're gonna put like a bunch of vegetables in it. But we were there in Lowe's, and this lady, masks, gloves, and she had her kid with her. Now, if you're really that worried, why are you bringing your kid with you? Is first my opinion. Second of all, we're just kind of like looking at this area, and this lady's like, honey, you need to get away. You got to be 6 feet away from those people. And like we would move an inch, and she'd be like, you need to move. And it was like, all right, chill. Like none of us are coughing. Like there's been like one case in our city. Like you're going to be fine. Just chill out. If you're that worried, probably don't bring a 9-10-year-old kid. But I've definitely seen a lot of people that aren't taking it seriously at all. I know some of the kids I went to high school with, I guess they're not kids anymore, but some of the young adults that I went to high school with, they're just going willy-nilly, having parties, doing all kinds of stupidness. And I'm like, you're going to be the reason it like explodes in this area. And
Yeah.
it's just terrible. So.
I had I remember there was like a news story of like these college kids going to, I forgot what part of Mexico, and then coming back and they were coming from Texas, and they all ended up getting the virus. And it's just like, okay, why would you, like an idiot, just jump out? and decide that you're gonna go off and, you know, all willy-nilly thinking that everything's gonna be okay, like you're invincible and you can rule the world or something like that. I don't know. I find that
Yeah.
very, very weird.
Yeah, I guess college. I mean, when you're in college, I feel like you feel invincible. I know I did when I was in college to an extent.
I mean, listen, I'm in college now. I'm very aware that I can die.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna jump off a bridge or like,
Mhm.
but I see these college videos, and actually, I know I send Junior them it sometimes on Instagram, and there's like these kids that are like jumping off roofs. I remember when this virus first broke out, there was just like a humongous like college party, and everyone's sharing drinks and everything. I'm like, one, why would you share drinks anyway? And two, why are you sharing drinks when there's a virus? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
How does that help you?
Yeah, and then you sent me that coronavirus challenge where people were looking what deodorants and toilet seats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I almost forgot about that. Yeah, there's this one girl. She's like coronavirus challenge, and she like licks a toilet seat on a plane. I'm like, one, you're not hot anymore, and two, like,
You're not hot anymore.
I mean,
You
she
went
was
from
a
a
looker,
10 to a
but
2.
yeah.
Oh,
I'm like,
dude.
meanwhile, who's gonna want to kiss you after you licked a toilet? I was- Talk about a potty mouth, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
God.
Dude,
Who-
that's nuts.
Dude.
In a more serious note, I feel like a lot of people do forget that, all right, even if you're not susceptible to it, like younger people won't hit as hard, it's still you taking it to other places, affecting other people's family members and things like that. And I just think
Exactly.
college people, I guess you could say, are more a little self-centered. They want their spring breaks. They want to go have fun. So it's just, yeah, it's not helping the situation at all.
Yeah, no, most
Yeah.
definitely not. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't think that um I don't get how self-centered you have to be when, you know, you're literally probably jeopardizing your family by going to all these crazy parties and stuff like that. But I mean, I totally agree with you that these kids are a little bit more self-centered. I mean, we've had several talks on our podcast about how we feel this generation's a little bit off
Yeah.
when it comes to family values and um you know, other stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
I
in
think
that regard, oh, go ahead.
I think on the topic of like the college kids, I think a lot of them, their problem is that, at least from what I saw when I was in college, living in the dorms and stuff, you notice there's a lot of kids that their parents didn't really give them any freedom. So once they go to college, they get all this freedom and they just go willy nilly, like they go nuts.
I don't know
And
what to
so
do with it.
I think that's probably part of it. And another thing is, like, a lot of kids when they go to college, they're like, all right, this is my 4 years to do whatever I want, and there's going to be no consequences. I don't have parents to tell me what to do anymore. Which, newsflash, there's still consequences. If you drink, if you drink and then you try to drive home and a cop pulls you over, you're probably going to get in trouble. But I think that's part of it. And then on the generation thing, I feel like every generation that comes through, they like, every generation's obviously quite different from the next. I feel like each generation values one thing over the other. Like for example, like the baby boomers are patriots to like the core, and then you have our generation, which is kind of like, what's that, like, kind of, what do they call it, like we're like the woke generation or whatever, where we like, I honestly, I'm not really even sure what that even is supposed to mean, but I feel
Yeah.
like our generation more values like just being able to express ourselves, I guess is what you'd say. I think that's what our generation's big thing is,
Yeah.
being able to express ourselves. And sometimes it's like, do you need to express that? I don't know, but
Yeah, I feel
like licking toilet seats.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's like their expressions are absolutely weird. Or like we've had again several talks about like this outrage culture and like kind of where it's gone. And I think that I guess came a part of our generation that's I don't know, like expressing themselves. They got to express all their feelings and sometimes they're overly expressive towards what other people are going through. Like if someone said something racist to me and someone else gets offended for me, I'm like, no, no, I don't need you to get offended for me.
Yeah.
I have tough skin. I'm okay.
Yeah.
If anything, it's like when your mom steps in and it makes you get bullied worse. Like that's what it feels like.
Yes, it
Someone
does.
steps in for you and then everything just ends up
Yeah.
turning out in a blaze, and I'm just like, stop! I'm gonna
Yeah.
get bullied.
Yeah. I agree with you. I feel like in that particular instance, I feel like it's not somebody else's job to be upset. Like if somebody said something racist to you, I was standing there, I wouldn't say anything until you said something, because like I don't know, if you have a relationship with this person and it's like a joke between the two of you. Like I don't know, like uh there's so many instances where people are really really close and then they just say really really stupid what sounds really effed up to each other, really isn't.
Yeah,
um
I
it's
think, yeah,
Yeah. So I think people, just want to be mad is
Yeah.
really what it is. I think
Yeah.
people just want to be mad and they want to voice their opinion so much that sometimes I feel like in a lot of ways it's not really how they feel. They just want to see how much attention they can garner from having this woke opinion, you know?
yeah,
Uh,
woke, a term used very lightly.
mhm. Yeah. I was watching the news and they were talking about being woke, and I was like, I don't even like. I'm in the generation of woke people, and I don't even know what that even has to mean. Like, I don't know about that one.
That's kind of sad, I guess, if our own news is talking about woke society.
No joke. Yeah,
So,
it's
children, we're going to talk about woke today. I don't know if you've parents heard of woke.
dude,
It's like,
it's gonna be in the dictionary one day. I'm telling you.
oh gosh, please no. But
Like selfies is in the dictionary, I think.
yikes. I wanted to get into more or less because now we have a new guest with us, and Corey, I wanted to get into more or less your side of things when it came to starting up the Red Tiger Clan, because as I'm aware, you and Colin were kind of the pioneers, if you will,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
the Red Tiger Clan.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. I'd say I don't know for sure when I met Colin. I just know it was either late 2007 or early 2008. But at that point in time, him and two other guys that left almost immediately. I know one was like significantly younger than Colin. I think he was
Oh
like 5 or
gosh.
6 years younger than him. So at that point in time, he had to be like, I don't know, like 8. I don't know. But he was like on there. And then all I remember is like, it was like him, a guy named like Punch Face, and Matsta was like the little boy. But I remember meeting them, and I think it was in a search and destroy game or something like that. Um, and I was kind of new to the multiplayer, I guess, side of things. Like I always had like, like a PlayStation, an Xbox, PS2, that kind of thing. And then my friends were like I went over to my friend's house and saw like multiplayer, and I was just like, I just couldn't believe it. So when I got that, I sucked at every game I played online. But um, so when I ended up meeting him, those two guys left, and we kind of stayed close. Just kind of played with each other, and I knew that he already had the RTC Red Tiger Clan thing going, and we just learned a little bit more about each other, and it was crazy because he was in Indiana as well, and I think things just started up and people just started joining. We just came across a couple different people here and there. and that was the start. But
Awesome. I mean, so getting to know Colin, when did you actually finally get to meet him? Because we were talking about previously how Austin eventually drove down there. Did your parents have a gripe with you going down that way, or
oh yeah, so
visit him, or?
he met up with Brady first, Hofsky, and I think they actually met up a couple times before I even met with him. And at that point in time, I wanted to go, and they had asked me to like all meet up. You know, like us three, they'd drive halfway down from where Colin's at, and I'd meet him, or my mom would have to drive me. But that ended up falling through. I don't know if that was just because like my parents were like skeptical about it, even though like me and Colin had like video chatted and whatnot and been talking all the time. They like knew who he was. But finally, when we decided to meet up for sure, both of our parents, we drove halfway. And I just remember his dad just like, he was like consistent about, like, I think our parents actually talked on the phone beforehand because Colin was actually coming to stay at our house, which when he met up with Brady, I think Brady always came to his house. So it was a little bit different. And so they talked on the phone. And then also when we met up at a gas station on like 32. And it was kind of weird at first, not gonna lie, but they like talked for a little bit and just kind of, we all introduced ourselves, and I think he only stayed for 3 or 4 days. But then after that, obviously the parents were cool with it, and we started kind of going back and forth. And then when we could actually drive, that's when we would actually just drive to each other's houses and not have the parents involved anymore, I guess. But
that's pretty cool. I mean,
yeah.
so like I mean, definitely when it comes to your guys's or if anything like our generation previously, or while when we were younger, that would, I don't feel like it was very common. That's something we were talking about previously as well, of getting to know someone over online and becoming friends. And I find that actually pretty cool. I find it interesting, and how the parents more or less felt getting to know someone online that you've never met in your entire life, and especially being so far in distance. Was it mainly Colin who kind of wanted to hang out first, or was it you who kind of came up with the initial idea, or how'd that turn about?
I think it was like just a mutual understanding, because I know that I was really disappointed when I couldn't go like hang out with him and Brady and his dad, because I think at that point in time it was definitely like my parents that were like, no, like they just thought it could be some like murderer. I was kind of confused though, because you know, like we had been talking and like video chatting and everything. I was like, he must have a long plot if he wants to kill me. He's waiting all these years. Gonna take me out.
He was just grooming you the entire time. So
exactly.
You're like, gosh dang. You're like, we're just friends. And meanwhile, he's just like sneakily plotting to murder. That's scary. Like
sharpening his knives.
Calling the keeper.
I can't, like, it makes me laugh because I can't picture Colin more or less as a murderer.
I feel
swinging around a little blade.
Dude, I feel like if Colin was like a murderer and he ran at me trying to murder me, I don't know if I could take him seriously, and like he'd probably be killing me, and I'd still be like, I don't think this is real. Like, I don't think this is really happening. I feel like he'd just be like giggling the whole time. Yeah.
Oh man, that's morbid.
Yeah,
oh my god. So you're saying that Corey, that you've seen your friends sort of playing online before you got into playing video games online. So what game was it that kind of drove you towards the multiplayer world?
Yeah, it was definitely the original Modern Warfare. That's just what everybody was playing, and I don't know. That game just changed everything for me. And I never really got into Halo either because that really was like booming back then too with the
Yeah.
multiplayer. But I'm gonna be honest, I just stuck with Call of Duty. I really did. Back then, I didn't really play anything else other than Call of Duty.
Yeah, I mean, Call of Duty definitely has been, I guess, a title that we've all have in common. I think for me and what Junior, you were saying MW2 is kind of your,
Yeah,
was
it
it
was like
your,
that was like my first introduction to like Call of Duty, I guess you could say. Because before that, I think Halo is what got me onto multiplayer.
yeah. I mean, see, that, so I just find it funny just how we kind of all have that commonality when it came to one central game that was like the pinnacle for bringing everyone in like our childhood almost kind of together. And one thing that I like, and I don't feel like it's highlighted enough, is how this generation feels more or less about meeting people online and through video games. Because all I've heard, from parents and a lot of, I guess, yeah, older people, they feel that video games wasn't necessarily something as a positive. And I mean, it's even dubbed. There's like this. You can it Gaming too much has become a disorder now, which I find absolutely strange. I mean, I guess anything can be a disorder um, I guess, doing things too much and not like sort of I don't know, like let's say I overly like to play with action figures or something. I'm sure that can be a disorder of its own. So I just found it strange how people would always demonize playing video games so much, and I like to see the positive side of how these friendships kind of grew. Another question for you, Corey. When do you remember the first time you met our lovely Austin over here?
I do. I do remember that. Yeah.
It's a
He
good
was coming.
time.
You drove all the way from Oklahoma that first time. So
10 hours.
I remember
10
him
hours.
just like texting us and be like, "All right, I'm 8 hours out. I'm 6 hours out."
Oh god.
And it was different meeting Austin compared to like Colin because like you'd already met everyone, and I guess I was friends with Austin a lot longer before I actually met him. So it just felt like a little different. Like it felt normal, like I had
hmm
met him
hmm
before, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt too. The only weird thing that happened really was when I pulled up to Colin's house. He ran outside, and
And hug you.
I'm getting out of the car, and he hugs me and he goes, "Ooh, first touch." He's like, "Oh, I need my second touch," and he hugs me again. I was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "What does this mean?" He's like, I've known you for this long, and this is the first time I've ever touched you." And I was like, I guess it makes sense. I was like, it's just a little weird to run at somebody you haven't met in person ever, and just go, "Oh, first touch."
And then he pulls out the knife, huh?
Yeah,
Yep,
there.
and then he starts shaking me, and I was like, "Oh man, what a pleasant surprise."
I was gonna say he's definitely a hugger. Every time you meet, like go to Colin, he just like bear hugs you. He's like, "Hey."
I'm just imagining him hugging you and like whispering your "Hey."
Yeah.
Oh god.
Oh, yeah.
The whole murder thing? I don't know. It might be real. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's
I'm
where
actually a ghost.
you.
Oh, but yeah, no, it really did feel normal. Even meeting the mocks, like I didn't feel out of place or anything like that, because that was one of my concerns. I thought it was going to be like a little weird, and it was going to take a little bit for everybody to adjust and for myself to adjust to everybody else. And it was like I came over. Colin's dad kind of gave me the little interrogation, made sure I wasn't a murderer when I walked in, and then I I was like, I promise I'm not gonna murder your son. I'm not. I might murder his girlfriend, but no. But I it gave me a little interrogation, and then after that, it was like we're on Xbox, but sitting right next to each other. We were just hanging out, did a bunch of stuff. Then we went down, of course, to Corey's house and stayed at your parents' house and went to that amazing concert. And it really was really cool. It was really nice to like, I don't think I've ever met people for the first time and it been like that smooth before.
Yeah. That was a great time.
It really was. We had so much fun. There was a lot of adult beverages consumed on that trip.
What?
Yeah.
Shippers don't do that?
Yeah. We were all of age though, so it's fine.
Yeah, so that was, I remember seeing the post of that. So that was pretty recently then, that when you guys all met.
2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm coming up in July.
Was it the first time you came down? Yeah, you came and saw us as well. So I guess you just met Colin and Clary just a little bit earlier, and then drove on my way. But
I think I stayed with them 1 or 2 days before we drove down. I think it might have been just one. I think I got there like around noon that day, hung out with them, and then we drove down to hang out with you. Then I came up another time over spring break, and you came up for a couple days, and then we hung out, and those are the only 2 times I've actually been up there. So hopefully this summer, I'm planning this summer. Of course, we've got a wedding to go to that hopefully will still go on, and then then I've got another one in October, and we'll see. Hopefully that goes smoothly.
I hope, because then that would be my first encounter, more or less, with finally meeting the Grando Austin.
The legend. Yeah, dude, it'll be cool. I'm excited for it. I just hope all this coronavirus stuff isn't going on, because obviously if it's still happening, it ain't happening.
Yeah, I know. I really hope we probably get that chance to meet. But Corey, so you're saying that you actually had known Austin a while at that point. So when was your first encounter with him when it came to like Xbox and like, or playing online?
I honestly don't know like the first time. Like, do you remember Austin? Like, I don't remember at all.
The only thing I remember with you guys, Colin, didn't you remember this one time when I think it might have been when you guys met Xandru, who ended up introducing me to everybody. There was one time when I first got my Xbox. I think it was MW2 time. I had that free month of Xbox Live. I ended up in a match with you guys randomly one time, and me and Xandru talked smack, and then I guess later on he joined you guys or whatever. But that was the first time I like quote unquote met you guys. But then our real meeting, it had to have been sometime during Black Ops 2.
Maybe
like,
Black Ops 2.
Yeah, because I didn't really play. I played 1 month of MW2 when it was like multiplayer was big, and then I got Xbox Live again, like middle of MW3.
Yeah.
But
I was gonna say, and also like I went through a stage 2 a couple of those years that I was caught up in girls, and I kind of just the Xbox stuff. I was like,
oh man,
Yeah.
the epitome,
I know how
the
that
gamer with a weak spot.
Yeah,
exactly.
I forgot at what point I left, but it was still pretty. Maybe Modern Warfare 3 was that a thing? I can't even remember.
Yeah, it was after I think Battlefield 3 actually, because it was during the time when Battlefield 3 and Modern Warfare 3 came out.
So after that I disappeared and I came back, and I think whatever Black Ops are in the future, and things were just flying everywhere. You're walking on walls. And I was just like, what the hell is going on? My eyes were like strained. My head hurt.
Yeah.
Man, you missed a lot. Holy cow. I think we've all gone through that phase though.
It was a strange era because during that time it was felt like you needed ADHD to play
Pretty much,
Call of
man.
Duty at that
Yeah.
point.
Dude,
I remember playing with you. I think I went over your house, Justin, and I was just like, "What the hell's going on?" I couldn't even move. I would just get killed. And what was there, like
Yeah.
random skills? So you got a bow and arrow, I think. Yeah, that was crazy.
Dude, it was.
Yeah, it was like one of the, I think, just hardest times to, because I had stopped playing Call of Duty at that point too. And I was like, okay, it was after Black Ops 1, and I just stopped playing any sort of Call of Duty title for a while because I just kind of got tiresome of it. And then there was Ghost, I think. I don't know if it was before or after Black Ops 3, but then Black Ops 3 came out, and I was like, all right, cooperative campaign, let me give it a shot. And then, like, my eyes were crossed the entire time because I could not handle how much stuff was going on in the screen. I'm like, I can't keep up. I felt like an old person. I didn't know what to do.
Mm, yeah.
I remember, Junior, that time era of when it was like Black Ops or Battlefield 3 or Modern Warfare 3. You had pre-ordered Battlefield 3. I had pre-ordered Modern Warfare 3. And then the better title kind of ended up, and I hate to admit this, but it was Battlefield 3. It was one of my most favorite Battlefield titles that was out. And I remember too you having all the exclusive content that you get with pre-order, and I was like sitting there like a schlub, like behind. And I was like, I got this game for Christmas. I was one of those kids that gets the game for Christmas, and then you're just
Christmas
behind.
noob.
Do you guys remember? One thing I guess I want to kind of go over is like the lingo when it comes to Xbox games and or just online in general. Do you remember like there was noob? We had squeakers. Do you guys remember?
Oh gosh,
what-
squeakers were the worst.
Pretty much.
Squeakers were the
For
worst.
those of you who aren't as well versed on video games, which is if you watch our podcast, I hope you are, but no, you don't have to be. But anyway, a squeaker was like what, a kid like around that kid that you were describing, Corey, like 8 years old. That was a squeaker. So
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
young, like like super high pitched voice.
Yeah,
because
prepubescent.
And they just scream, dude. They scream.
Oh, they had the worst mouths out of everybody. Those were the kids in the MW2 lobbies that they said whatever came to their mind at the time, and I don't know how their parents didn't ban them from Xbox.
Non-existent.
It was bad. It was bad.
Pardon me.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
no, I remember they would say anything and everything to try and get under your skin. And it was like, they swore like a sailor. It was absolutely insane. Meanwhile, their parents are thinking they're sweet little angels. And then you have the squeakers, if you will, tearing up the online game chat with like curse words and like the most racist things you would ever hear in your
Oh
entire
God,
life.
yeah.
That they probably wouldn't say. Well, actually, maybe they were saying in person, but it was like insane. Like you felt like you're bullied by this younger kid, and sometimes I'd cry. No, I'm just kidding.
It's just everything they heard on the bus, just all in one conversation.
Dude, squeaker. Dude, I really believe that the squeaker kids were the ones that like they were in those areas where like they get on the bus and it's like it's not just like the like elementary and middle school kids. It's like all the way up to high school. So they hear all these high school kids just dropping F-bombs and all that stuff, and they're like, "Oh, those guys are cool. I'm gonna be just like them." And then they start saying it on Xbox.
Pretty much, they're like, I heard this word today. I'm gonna, shout that out.
They don't even know what it means. They're just calling you all kinds of stuff. Oh God.
Yeah, like I think it was definitely like a Wild West at the time when it came to squeakers and the time of Xbox, and I just remember that. I mean, they had it rough. I will give it to them, because a lot of times if they were beaten and they had the high-pitched voice, you're gonna hear nonstop just roasts from people that are older and that love to see them get riled up. I remember at a time that it was like MW3. Everyone hated squeakers at this point, right? It was morning time. I'd get on Xbox every morning before school, just to get some gameplay in before having to go through the rigors of junior high or high school, I believe, actually at the time. No, it was junior high. It was around, like, I think, eighth grade, freshman year. Anyway, I was early morning, sat down, had my headset in, beyond tired in my face because I had to get up earlier than the bus, and I am not a morning person whatsoever. And everyone's sitting in the lobby, super quiet, and then all of a sudden this kid goes, "Hey, how's everyone doing?" And literally everyone in that lobby, and I promise you, jumped down this kid's throat, telling him to shut up. So, like, "Shut up, you bleeping squeaker, blah blah blah." And I was just like, I felt so, like, close to everyone, but at the same time, I felt like super sad for that kid who was just trying to say hello, because everyone jumped down his throat, like, making fun of him, telling him to shut up. And then after that, the lobby went quiet, and then here, "I was just trying to say hello, geez."
Dude, I truly believe that all those squeakers back in, like, those days ended up being the best trash talkers on Xbox. I truly believe it. They had to. Like, they literally had to learn how to trash talk really good. Like, they all had their phases where they just said anything they could, like, came to their mind. But there's a lot of them, like, I would say, like, 15 to 19-year-olds nowadays, like, they were the squeakers back in the day, and they can trash talk. So I'll give it to them. Like, they got it rough in the beginning, but now they're giving back 10 times what they got.
Now they're comedians, roasting everybody and everyone.
And now they're David Dobrik.
Right? Gosh dang, that would be sad if that was the case. I would feel, like, horrible. I'd be like, wow. Or maybe a little bit, I'd be like, he needs to thank me for roasting him all those years ago.
Yeah. Can you give me a little bit of that money, please? I helped create you.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
I remember another word that had came up was camper. That was I remember parents were sure confused when your kid was screaming camper out the top of their lungs, and they're like, "Wait, my child wants to go camping? Wait till wait till this weekend or something." Like, I remember just that coming about, like, just all this terminology that was, I feel, I think probably around our era came about. And I don't know. Any other words that I've kind of missed that you guys sort of remember happening?
Yeah, I can think of, like, halo jumping. You
Teabagging.
got teabagging. Yeah.
Teabag. Oh my goodness. Yes, teabagging.
You got drop shotting.
Yeah, drop
You've
shot.
also got ninja diffusing, which when you get a ninja diffuse, it's like the best moment ever. If you can pull off a ninja diffuse, I feel like that's like the pinnacle of your day. If you're a gamer.
Hack knifing, or commando knifer was another one.
Commando. Noob tubers.
Noob tubers, yes. Those.
What else? There's a lot of them. Like, you think about, like, it amazes me, like, how quickly gamers basically created their own language in a sense. Like, it was, gaming wasn't, like, online gaming really, it didn't become, like, that big until, like, what, 2005, 2004? And even then, I don't think it was really that big. I think right around MW2 to, like, I guess now technically would be, like, when it really just started going ham. So I feel like it's just wild to think, like, in less than 10 years we created a language in a sense.
Yeah, I find it absolutely fun. I think my most favorite would be the one Junior mentioned over there, the teabag.
Oh,
That was a way to get everyone mad, and it was also a way for you to release some stress, when
Yeah.
you're a kid.
Oh, I know you, Justin. You've definitely had some pretty aggressive teabags where like you just constantly got killed and you finally got him. You're like, I'm gonna teabag him.
I can 100% see that. He still does that to this day.
Yeah, or you get teabagged, and that was the ultimate diss, and you get in. I know I personally, I would get infuriated. I'm like, he teabagged me. And teabagging, for those of you who don't know, is well, you take your game character, and then there's a dead game character, and then you crouch on their on their dead body.
That was the best. That was the best representation of what happens ever I think I've ever seen. That was good.
You proceed to crouch on your dead enemy's corpse in the video game. That is not in real life. I wouldn't suggest it.
You just see someone. Oh gosh, I'm just thinking of one of the people that listens to this, just going to a funeral and you.
You got pumped, man.
He's like, oh, she's back dead. Yeah, right. I'm going.
Oh no. Oh man. Imagine the people seeing that. They'd be like, is this really happening right now? This guy's... Oh gosh. Oh man.
Dude, that's funny.
I feel like.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like this new Call of Duty has kind of killed a lot of that kind of stuff, though, since you can't. Once you're out of a lobby, it may put you in a whole different lobby, where before you could just stay in the same lobby and keep playing the same people over and over again until one of you left. And then that's when the real frustration would like grow. Like, I'll never forget, like, when we would play Call of Duty Ghost, we always had like at least 6 people at all times, and so we'd always be search and destroy, full team, just going after it. And we'd run into teams, and they would stay in the lobby, and we'd just be like beating them over and over and over again. And then they'd finally beat us one time, and like you'd just see all of them, just like every camera you went to, they were just teabagging the heck out of everybody that was dead. And it was so much fun. It was so much fun.
Yeah, or like you would leave and then to go end up falling back into the same lobby with the same kids, and it was just super awkward. You're like, ay.
Yeah.
Like I did not want to run into him.
No, was it Call of Duty where if you were the host and you left the game, it just ended it?
Yeah, earlier Call of Duties. Yeah,
I think you're right. It was like one person. They would choose one person's connection to host the entire lobby. And you're right, when that one kid would rage quit, and like let's say it was a good game, and let's say the kid sucked, and they leave, and then literally everyone just had to sit there and suffer and lose all of their progress because this one kid decided to rage quit.
I think you've done that. I think you've been guilty of that, Justin.
Rage quitting? Oh yeah.
When you're the host and you ended the whole game.
I have a temperament when it comes to multiplayer. That's why at one point, I think after MW3 or something like that, around the time you left, Junior, I ended up just stepping away from online gaming for actually like about 2 years. And I was playing games, but not online games, just because I had gotten so tired and so frustrated of just the same amount of people that would trash talk and stuff like that. And even Austin could probably attest to this now. Like, I'm starting to like finally feel that multiplayer like drag of just kids nonstop talking smack, and you're just like, I can't handle this. This is annoying. Just because like I feel like, not that I don't have tough skin, but after a while it sours the game for me. Like, where every time, if I'm expectant to lose, I have to hear the amount of crap people are gonna say to me every 10 seconds. Or even if I win, you got kids still talking crap, and I'm just like, I'm older now. And I'm like, I don't feel like I necessarily have to be held to that standard.
I think it doesn't help that you've got the skill-based matchmaking now.
Yeah.
I feel like out of all Call of Duties, like I don't think I I was not a rage quitter, and this Call of Duty has turned me into one. Like it's like you'll get in lobbies sometimes, and you'll go up against somebody who has full Damascus camo, like they're just on PC, just 360ing you and just turning around, killing you, and it's just like I don't want to play against these guys. I want to play against the Christmas noobs back in the day, you know, that the Christmas Day about midday, they'd finish downloading the game, and then you'd go in and they'd be in their first game and you just destroy them. Like those were really the days. And now with this skill-based matchmaking stuff, I think it's kind of changed things. I think everybody at this point is probably a rage quitter.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just time to dashboard.
I can I have had a few. When you get killed, when you die, you don't get to finish the animation of you dying. Somebody shoots an RPG. You haven't even clicked the X button to respawn.
Yeah.
You finally finish the animation, and then another animation of you dying just starts without you even getting into the game. I definitely had that happen, and you could best believe my Xbox got turned off immediately. Like it's like I'm over it. I'm done.
Yeah.
Or
getting just headshot multiple times. It's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
This Call of Duty is just a lot different. It's just like a lot more competitive just because of that skill-based matchmaking. And also, it's not even like if you have you and 4 friends, it doesn't even take like the overall. I feel like it's just whoever the top player is, it takes their skill and matches you up against the other team. And
yeah, and
it's
then it's still a mismatch sort of.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just not as fun. Like even for like the good players, it's hard to even for them to have like a super good game. You know what I mean? It's just fun to beat up on everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. I think that's why we play video games. You know, it's like you want that. I personally go to video games because I want that release, and I want to be someone that I'm not actually in real life, and just escape and into imagination. And sometimes, even if that means like dominating in a multiplayer game, I mean, everyone must feel this way. It feels good to win.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
I think the shift really. Gaming went from a stress reliever to a stress creator at this point. Like I really believe that playing Call of Duty, if you play for too long and you're just getting destroyed every single game, I truly believe it creates a lot of stress, and you have to get off the game. You just have to turn the Xbox off to relieve the stress now. Whereas before it was like, man, you know, I've been having like high school days. Oh, gosh, it's so rough. My life is so rough, even though it's not. And you're just like, I just need to get away, play some video games, and you get on and go get a nuke in MW2, and you're like, all right, I feel good now. I'm good.
Yeah.
Now I feel like it's so rough, and then I get on and I'm like, it's so rough.
Yeah, it's like, man, life's getting me down. Coronavirus. I'm gonna play some Xbox. You're getting destroyed. Like, this might be worse than the coronavirus. I think I'm just gonna get off.
Yeah.
I think I'm just gonna go outside without a mask on for a little bit.
Yep. I think I'm just gonna go to Walmart and sniff everything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna partake in the Corona challenge and lick me a toilet seat.
I was about to say that next.
I was gonna say it just puts you in a complete different headspace when you're playing like multiplayer compared to like an open world game when it's just you. Like it's just so calming in an open world game or a campaign. Then you get on that multiplayer, and I know I get kind of irritated on games when I'm getting beat up. So it definitely creates some stress.
Yeah, I think we all get a little frustrated. I think that's why I've kind of turned to playing a little of some non-Xbox games like RuneScape again, just a little bit, because right now, I mean, can't go outside, so I'm playing a lot more Xbox than I normally would be, and so it's creating more stress. I'm like, I just need to like do something that's chill, so I can play some RuneScape, watch some YouTube videos, Joe Rogan's podcast because he's got some funny people on there sometimes, and then I'm like, I'm good.
And the amateur hour podcast, because
Yes, of course.
love it.
That one is on replay. I never stopped that one.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Everyone.
never stopped that one. I I tell you what, there was a few days when I first started working, Justin. When you first started porting everything over to YouTube, I kid you not, I just had it. I would be in my office and I'd have it playing. I'd have one AirPod in and I'd just be listening to it as I'd be doing my work. And my there was a few times when my boss would come in and be like, "What are you listening to?" I was like, "Oh, my friend's got a podcast. It's pretty good. I'm just listening to him talk about people leaking toilet seats." So
Yeah, we do talk about some strange stuff, but sometimes we talk about some serious stuff, but sometimes we're all over the place with our podcast. That's what I love about it, is that
mhm.
so versatile in the topics that we like to give people. But with that
Oh yeah.
said, I'm going to throw this over to a quick break so that way people can hear a word from our sponsors.
Adam Stowe, a unique alternative rock artist that delivers a lyrical narrative through unique stage performance that will resonate with its listeners.
Breaking down like a bus of bees. I want to wake up late. No, I want to kill my head. No, but what else can I do? You're right inside my mind.
Adam Stone's music describes emotions not commonly expressed. Alongside Adam Stone's lyrical talent is his ability to be a one-man band. You can follow Adam Stone on SoundCloud and YouTube.
And I'm taking you down. You don't know what falling means.
So from Mexico to the rest of the world, I introduce to you your favorite ghost, Adam Stone. Get high-quality XLR cables from EBXYA. EBXYA makes keeping track of your cables easier by delivering 6 different color coding options. Their cables are made with a durable metallic connector, which allows your cable to last longer. Their cables are also made with a flexible, durable PVC jacket cable, imported with remarkable tenacity, elasticity, waterproof, mold-proof, and anti-cracking. Keep your sound intact and search EBXYA on Amazon today.
Hey Justin, you like to sing, right? Give us a little something.
Hey!
You need to take that over to LoftyCast Studios. You can record that kind of music there. They got drum kits, acoustic pianos, Fender and Martin guitars. They can help you get your music on all streaming platforms and get you some CDs made.
And welcome back, and we'd like to welcome back our guests, Red Tiger Clan, Corey Shirky 007, as well as Austin Kensky 007. I always introduce you with your name first. I just realized this. And yet, Corey, well, actually, I think I did Corey's, whatever. Okay, well, welcome back, guys. Thank you for your time at break. I hope you had a wonderful break. With that said, I also want to thank our sponsors. Quick shout out to them. Link is going to be in the description, as well as the Red Tiger Clan. You could check out their link. It's going to be in the description. And in the top right corner, click that I button because it will lead you straight to Red Tiger Clan as well. So we were talking about, before we went to break, a little bit, we're diving into competition, the idea of competition. And Corey, I know you're one competitive man. So where do you feel, one, that kind of comes from? And two, what is like what kind of puts you in the spirit of competition? What do you love about it so much?
Dude, I don't know. I've been competitive my whole life with everything that I do. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I have a little anger thing too when it comes to that. Like, I am so competitive. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. It can be like the simplest thing, and it can be with anybody. But I mean, I guess I played sports my whole life, so that was kind of a deciding factor in the competitiveness. And like, just growing up, I had a brother too, and we were both just trying to be the best that we could. So that was pretty crazy. And then like going through high school, I mean, not just high school, like leading up to that, I played sports constantly, all different sports. And then I mostly focused on like basketball. And I'd say that I was probably the best at basketball and soccer. Um, and then I tore both ACLs. So that was pretty crazy.
Nice.
I tore the right one playing basketball and then tore the left one the following year playing football after I had already had like surgery. So I don't know if that was like I was like trying to like cater to the hurt one and then put too much stress on the other one. And I don't know. It was just a crazy time in my life, I guess. And then after that, I just played golf, which I was also really competitive at. And then obviously gaming's always been there. But I love it. There's some satisfaction to winning. And I have that mindset that if you're not first, you're last, which that comes in everything, specifically Warzone now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I know every time you get on, you're always like, all right, boys, we gonna win tonight or what?
Yep. Every time.
it's the only thing that comes to my head. I'm like, it's almost worse when you're like coming in second and third. Like that lack of satisfaction. Doesn't even matter like if we have like 50 kills or 0 kills going into that final circle. Just coming in second just hurts so bad.
Dude, that's how I feel too. I feel like I would much rather just like get knocked out quick, jump
Yeah.
into a new game than go all that way to finish second. Like, I don't know if that's because like, I mean, I know Corey, you played a lot of sports and so did I. I feel like when you like put in all that practice and then you like get second place at state or something, it's just like, oh my, like it's an awesome like experience like to look back on later, but in the moment you're like, oh my, like I put in all this work and I still wasn't good enough. Like that's the only thing I could think of. Like when I played baseball, my school went to state for the first time like ever, I think, and it was like a huge experience. And so like for that was like our championship in a sense. And so it was a little bit different in that regard because we weren't a powerhouse school like a lot of the others that were. And then we won a game in state and we were like, oh my God, like we could actually win this. And then the next game, this team just like destroys us. And it was like, we went from like super high of like, oh, we made it to state. Oh, we beat a team to like, we put in all this work and we can't beat anybody. Like it's just crazy. It's just crazy to how it feels. Like then you look back on it and you're like, wow, that was like cool. Like whenever I was in high school, I got second, third, and fourth in state in academics, and it's like I still hate the fact that I didn't get first, but it's like I got basically every single spot but first. So I mean, I guess that's all right. But yeah, I don't know.
Dive into the stories a little bit more. I want to hear about your sports career, Corey. Like the tearing your ACL, like how did that come about? What sport were you playing? What happened?
So I kind of attribute it to like probably playing too much sports. I started really young. Like I don't know what the age limit was when like you could first start playing sports here in Indiana, but like I was a year younger, and I'm telling you, like it didn't matter what time of year it was. Even if it was winter, I was on the court playing basketball, like AAU. Like I was mostly specialized in basketball, but I did a little bit of everything. And I think just all that stress finally got back to me. So when I tore that first one, I think maybe it was the beginning of 8th grade year, something like that. But I was just running after a ball and kind of like slipped on my leg, and it's weird. I don't know if you guys have ever like torn an ACL or anything like that. You don't necessarily like feel it. You more like hear it. Like it's really loud. Like it's a weird experience. It's like a loud pop. But you know instantly something's wrong because like within like 30 minutes your knee is just huge. Like it swells up so fast you can't bend it because of the swelling, and it's just like all that fluid is in there. And it is a long recovery. Like even if you don't have surgery, I know that first one, they said that like you can't get reconstructive surgery, or they don't recommend it until your growth plates are like closed. And my growth plates weren't closed. But I went ahead and had like a scope, which gets like all the like extra debris out of there. So the ACL was completely torn on my right knee. So there was all these like fibers and everything. They cleared that out and like gave me like a sports brace and everything like that. And they were like, you'll be able to still play if you're wearing this brace and you do all this rehab and strengthen all the muscles around the knee and everything like that. So I said, okay. And being the competitive person I am, like, I just went ahead and gave it a try. While I was wearing that knee brace and, you know, doing all the rehab, going after it really hard and just trying to get back into that mindset of just like getting back into the normal swing of things, because I loved sports. I loved them. And that following year, it was just like terrible, like playing football. And I stepped in like a small hole with my bad knee. And then that other knee like buckled on the outside.
Ooh.
And it was just bad. Like I knew right away that something was wrong. It didn't hurt as bad. But I felt or like heard that same pop and got it diagnosed, and they said it was torn. So then I went through that same process. It's like a full 6 to 8 months of doing that stuff. And then finally he was like, your growth plates aren't closed yet. And he was like, you can go ahead and do the surgery. So I actually did that reconstructive surgery on that left knee, which was the one I tore second. So I got that done and did like the whole 6 to 8 like months, like full hard, taking off, not doing any sports, doing everything. And then I got back into basketball and everything was going well. I was back on my normal pace of things. And I just remember having both knee braces on, and they're like, I don't know if you've seen them, but they're pretty big. They're like sleeves you pull up, and they have like metal like locks on each side to support your knee so it doesn't like shift one way or the other. And I just remember like the fourth practice of the actual like basketball practice, I went up for a layup and my knee popped out in the brace. Oh, and it was almost worse than tearing it, like that feeling. And I was like, all right, well, I'm done. Like I'm done with sports. Like I can't do it anymore. And that was the one that wasn't repaired yet. So I ended up getting the other one, both of them repaired completely. And I was like, I'm done. Like I can't do it anymore. And that's when I took up golf, which was really nice. I mean, in high school, you have to walk all the holes, no cart or anything like that. And you got to carry the bag. So that was nice to have something else to fall back on, even though I hadn't ever played golf. But I practiced that so hard all 4 years of high school.
So then that's you trying to, so you don't stay away from then, shy away from like any other physical sports, or you're just trying to keep to the ones that do the minimum?
Yeah. After all that happened, I mean, like I still like to shoot hoops and play catch and all that and have fun. But most of those contact sports, it's not even the contact that will really tear your ACL or anything. Because that left one, I also tore the meniscus, the medial meniscus in that. And so that was a little different too, a different feeling like rehabbing it. But just golf was just really the only thing like I felt comfortable doing, because those were also like expensive. It like took a toll on my parents too.
Yes.
Having to pay, and obviously I didn't have any money, and luckily like insurance covered like most of it. And then after high school and everything, I got asked to play golf at my college, and I ended up not doing it, not because of my knees or anything, and then ever since then, the only other thing I did was I played hockey for a year. And I grew up in the cornfields, so I had no experience with that. I did like weeks and months of training on just ice skating. And also like that's a good sport for your knees too, because if there's any pressure on your knees, the skate falls out, like from the ice. So
Yeah.
there wasn't really any risk with that, so I liked that. But yeah, I tried to stay away from anything that would further injure my knees, I guess.
And that's a good way of going about it. Do you have like any sort of fond memories when it comes to sports, or even funny memories that when it comes to sports and your time playing?
Honestly, everything is kind of a blur before those knees went out. Um, I'd say I think those memories might have just like washed over all the good ones just because of how like devastating it was kind of in my life. But and also just playing it nonstop, going to camps, like camps one after another, doing the AAU, playing with different people all the time. That was always nice, like meeting new people. But I'd say the most fun I actually had was playing golf, just goofing around. And I mean, it was good because sometimes we actually got to use carts, and we shouldn't have been doing this, but like you're driving around ramping stuff, driving where you're not supposed to be. There's a
Dude,
couple times like where we would be like side by side in the golf carts and just be like drifting in the rain, just hoping that nobody would find out. But obviously there was tire marks everywhere.
Yeah, like how are you gonna necessarily hide that?
Yeah. But I'd say one memory that sticks out completely while playing golf was like there's this one kid that was on the team, and everything would just bad would happen to him. Like whether it was in like competition or practice, this kid got welted with multiple balls. Like it didn't even matter where he was at. People would hit their driver and it'd go like a hole over and just nail this kid. Like 2 times, man. And I
It was
was
a
in
ball
one
magnet.
time, and he screamed, hit him like dead in the back. But like, man, you can hear everybody. They're like four, like yelling. And those are some of the memories that like I remember the most. Is mostly people getting hurt on the golf course. You wouldn't expect it. And also, one other kid that he was in the clan for a while. His name was Justin as well. His name was Broski 007, and we were at a sectional meet, and everybody at the beginning of the meet, like it's mostly like you have teams of like five. Five is like the worst people on the team. One's the best. So it's like a 1 seed and the 5 seed. Like, and you have 5 people from each team. Well, everybody crowds around the first hole, and like they're all there. It's like kind of like if you've ever seen any like actual like golf matches on the television, like the Masters or anything. You know how everybody just crowds the sideline, like they have the ropes. Well, everybody was like crowded right at the front of that first hole, and this kid takes his driver and swings, and the ball goes straight up and goes backwards behind him. To start it.
I bet you everybody backed up after that one.
Yeah, they were just like, and he's a funny guy, but he's like, well, that's a nice start.
Just
But yeah.
knocking people out with his freaking golf balls over there.
Yeah.
Jeez. Lucky thing probably that one kid wasn't there. If not, he would have got
He would've
probably
got hit in the
belted.
Got hit.
What about you, Austin? I know you're a sportsman. Like, what sports have you played? You got some stories for us? Do tell.
Well, I'm kind of the same as Corey. I feel like in the middle of the U.S., baseball and basketball is pretty big. So I played baseball, played basketball. I didn't play for my school, but I played a lot of playground football. I was the MVP of our playground football team all the time. I ran track. It's not a sport, but I did academics in high school too. What else did I do? I didn't play golf until later, but I did not do for competition because I am terrible. But I started playing baseball. My grandpa was a big time fast pitch softball player in Michigan, and so when I was like 2 or 3, he was teaching me how to grip a baseball. And so I started. My dad would throw golf balls, and I'd have a twig, and I'd have to hit the golf balls with this twig, and I did that when I was really young because you couldn't play baseball until I think you were like 3 or 4. I think it was 3.5 or 4 where I lived at the time in North Carolina, and then we moved, and then I had to wait a couple months before I turned 4 so that I could play where we're at now. But I played baseball. I only in my life up until I turned 18, I only missed 1 year of baseball. Played basketball that whole time, and I was okay at basketball. I really tried hard and eventually got okay. Baseball, I was just I wouldn't call myself natural, but I was pretty good at baseball. I was a pitcher, and I only got injured a couple times. Like when I was really young, when it was still coach pitch, kid hit a line drive and hit me in the face. And that did not, my mom tells the story because I don't remember it, but the ball just went straight into my head. All I do is I just go down on my knees like this, looking down. Everybody's like freaked out. And I'm just like holding my face, got one hand on my knee. And I don't know if my parents came out there or what, but I didn't shed a tear. I kept playing. I just had like this nice little like goose egg right here. And then, so at that time you got the one player from either team got like the baseball of the game. And I got one, and it's that one up there, and it's for getting hit in the face and not crying about it. And like my coach afterwards, cause he'd always give a speech after the game, talk about how it went. And he said, well, Austin, you took, I was like 6 or something. He said, you took not crying in baseball to a whole nother level. I was like, well, I mean, it hurt. It definitely hurt. I do remember how bad it hurt, but I don't remember the rest of it. But I guess I was just so focused on the game, because whenever I'm playing, whenever I'm focused, especially with sports, I can tone everything out. Like nothing else matters. And so that happened. I also played a little bit of shortstop, and I had a line drive like hit me in the side of the knee. That one kind of hurt. And then when I got to high school, I hyperextended my oh gosh, what's it called? I'm trying to think of the word. Hamstring. I hyperextended my hamstring, so my leg got kind of stuck, like partially bent but not quite bent. And I was just running cone drills, and it just locked up. And I was like, Coach, I can't bend my leg. And he's like, oh no, whatever. And he's like, you're fine. It's like, no, Coach, I cannot bend my leg. Like it's stuck. And so he made me run. We ran bases, and I was running just to look so dumb. But that was fun. I did that. Playing basketball, going up for a rebound, I broke a bone in my foot, and my foot, like in that spot, swelled up to like the size of like an orange. What else? And then the final injury, my senior year, I partially tore my UCL, and which it's like kind of the same experience as Corey was explaining whenever he tore his ACL. You just like hear this pop. It didn't hurt necessarily, but I felt this like pop, and I like hear it, and then I went to throw the next pitch, and it was like I went from like throwing mid 70s to like 50s maybe. Like you just lose all velocity completely, and then slowly it starts to like ache, I guess is what you'd call it, and then eventually it like later on as the day went on, it started to really hurt. But so that happened, and then when I went to college, I was going to play, or the original plan was I was going to go play college baseball for this university I went to, was going to walk on. And then because I tore my UCL, and at the time my parents, I mean, they were doing okay financially, but I didn't want to put that burden on them because it's an expensive surgery and got to pay for rehab, because rehab, I don't know how expensive it is for a ACL, but I know for a UCL it's really, really expensive. And because there's a lot of like machines, you have to, the physical therapist, all that stuff, which you have for ACL, but it was really expensive. We looked into it. Right. And this happened mid-season. And so what ended up happening is I was like, no, I'm not going to have the surgery. And then my coach asked what my injury was, and I told him that I just hyperextended my arm and that I'd be back in a couple weeks. And so I don't condone this, but I would take a ton of like anti-inflammatories, and then I would go out and pitch. And I would take so many to the point where I couldn't really feel my arm at all. And I think I ended up getting we ended up getting muscle relaxers, but whatever I had, I would end up like almost having completely numb arm, which is terrible in baseball because you need to be able to feel the grip of the ball. But I still played well enough where my coach would put me in and he had no idea. Like this, my arm was literally shot, like it was done. And so I played, that happened halfway through the season right before spring break. And I played the rest of the season with it like that. And then at our little closing meeting my senior year, I said, oh, by the way, I tore my UCL. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah, I lied to you. And he was like, are you stupid? I was like, yes. I wanted to finish out my year, but
yes, he says.
Yeah. I literally because
I mean, yeah, that's kind of I think dumb of you to continue to push forward when like you don't need to at that point. Right?
My thought process at the time was I had already made the decision I wasn't going to play anymore, like in college, and baseball was my love. I love if I could go back in time and like just tell myself you don't pitch today, and I could have kept on pitching, I'm sure I would have played college baseball, and if I was good enough I would have kept going until I hit the peak of what I could have done. And I would say I was pretty good. I don't know if I was like professional level good, but I feel like I was pretty decent at it. And so I had a really, really good work ethic at that time. I mean, I still do now, but I would put in hours and hours. I know my coach sometimes would get frustrated. I would call him up and ask him if we could come in and play some catch and stuff, because you have to have a catcher to pitch. And so I worked a lot on that, but I knew that it was coming to an end, and I was like, I'm not letting it end with me throwing. And just like, because I was our closer on our team, and so I was the guy that didn't get many runs hit off of him. In fact, until the end of the season, through the end of the season, I only ever allowed one run. And so I was like, I can't end on just some stupid injury. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do this. And it was painful. Like the next day, my arm would be completely dead. But I mean, you got to do what you got to do. But probably my favorite memory from baseball is we had this kid who went to our school. His name was Brandon, and his mom worked at our high school, and then she transferred to our rivals, and so he went with her, and we were playing them, and the guy that started the game hadn't allowed any runs, and then all of a sudden, I think we had 3 runs or something like that. He allowed bases loaded, no outs, and coach comes out, and I had only pitched a couple times before this, and at least that year, and the year before I had taken off. So I was like, I had very little experience playing like in the last few years. So
yeah,
he calls me and he's like, hey, you want to close this game? And I was like, what? It's like, I haven't closed a game ever in my life at this time. I was just always a starter. And so I come in, and by the grace of God, I pitched the best game I've ever pitched in my life. I struck out the first guy. Second guy comes up, he hits a easy pop up to our shortstop, and then the third guy was the kid that used to go to our school, and we played him in basketball all the time, and we just wanted to beat him because we felt like he abandoned us, because it was a group of like 6 or 7 of us that had played since we were 4 all together. And so we felt abandoned by him because he had the option whether to stay at our school or go to the other school, and he ended up choosing to go. And so we felt abandoned, so we wanted to beat him, and
Stick it to the man.
yes. And so, I mean, if he gets any type of hit, that's game could be tied or pretty close. And what ended up happening is he fouled off the first one. Second one, I threw a strike to him, and then he kept fouling it off. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And it wasn't like he was hitting them like foul balls, like easy ones. He was hitting far foul balls. And so I was like, what do I do? And probably my best pitch was I had a nasty 4-seam fastball that I called it my quote unquote changeup because it had so much movement. And so my catcher was like, fastball. And I was like, no, I'm not throwing fastball. Fastball, no. And we called time. He talked to me. I was like, we've thrown fastballs to him like 3 times in a row. I'm not throwing another fastball. We need to throw something else at him. And at the time, I didn't really have much of a curveball. I'd only used it a little bit. And so I threw this changeup, and it was really, 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 really good. And he goes to swing, and as he's swinging his bat, you see his face. I'm looking at his face, and you just see the amount of disappointment as he realizes there's no way he's hitting this ball because it's already moved, and like his shoulders just fall mid swing. And it was like one of the best moments ever, because I was like, I mid swing, this guy just like all of his confidence just left his body. And it was just a really cool experience. And I think we had like 2 innings left, and I ended up finishing out the rest of the game. But it was like, that was my big moment. Anytime we talk about like old baseball stories or something, when I got to college, that's always what I talked about.
Defeating the mortal enemy, if you will.
Yes, and I'll never forget, after the game ended, I came up to him, and I was like, "Did you like that changeup?" And he's like, he's like, "I was so disappointed." And I was like, I literally watched the disappointment and hit your body. I was like, I saw all of it. I saw every emotion, because he looked so confident, and then it just went. It was gone. But yeah, it was an awesome. That's my favorite story, probably.
I mean, that's definitely. I always find it interesting when other individuals that are really into sports and that have played sports when they're younger. I haven't really had the fortune. I've always wanted to play like basketball and other sports and stuff like that, but unfortunately I couldn't. But I don't know. Me and Junior, we played a lot of badminton.
I knew that's what it was leading up to.
And that's our only claim to fame, really. I mean, Junior, did you ever play sports before you got to our high school?
I think I played t-ball when I was super young, but that's about it.
My man. Played some I mean, I think another sport that we, or at least had a game of, was paintball, and that was definitely an absolute blast of fun. I think we had a lot of fun stories from that time. We've had a lot of mess ups and unfortunes. Now here's one thing, so when it comes to relating like the sports, is that when we were playing paintball, we wanted to get a cup, and we didn't want to get hit in the area where the sun don't shine, if you will. And I don't know, that was the most uncomfortable thing to have in between your legs. Like I've never experienced such a. I had like, there was like chafing, there was like it like I couldn't move my thighs, I couldn't close my legs. Like, I don't know, it took me a while to get used to that, and I'm just curious, how did you guys cope with that horrible mess?
I have a terrible I had a terrible cup experience. So we always had our coaches, growing up, you had to wear a cup no matter what. And so he would come by and he'd have a baseball bat and he'd smack the cup. I
Oh,
mean, he wouldn't go hard, but he'd just like tink, 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 make sure you're wearing a cup. And so of course I always wore mine. But one time I was running the bases and I slid into second base and my cup went like this, like shifted like this. And I guess you would like basically gave whiplash to one of my whats. And it was by far probably the most excruciating pain I've ever been in, because it was like, first off, it like pinched it, because you know how cups are made. It just like completely
yeah.
shifted everything. It really, really hurt. And then like the days afterwards, like there was swelling, there was black and blue, and it was like
Oh,
horrible. And so from that point on, I would like attempt to not wear a cup ever again, basically. Like the entire time I was in high school, because I ended up only pitching for the most part. I'd play a little outfield and hit sometimes, but I was primarily pitching. That was my thing. So I stopped wearing a cup completely, because I just like, there was that experience. I also had the one where I slid and my cup like went up and out of my pants, because I was like really, really skinny, and I had these, my pants were like, they weren't like we couldn't find pants that were long enough and thin enough for me, so I had to get really big pants and then a nice belt so I could keep them up. And so sometimes, it just like, so it slid and basically came completely out, and that didn't feel good either. So I was like, I'm done with cups. I hate
yeah.
cups. They're the worst thing
I
ever.
mean,
I'm telling
they
you.
save your life though. Like I was shot at least like twice around that area, and it wasn't fun. And I remember, okay, this is a bit mean, but when we were paintballing with like a group of like 25 friends, I believe, and some kids decided not to get a cup, and I remembered who those individuals were.
Oh no.
And let's just say, when it came down to them in my sights, I knew where to aim.
Golly, Justin, you savage, bro.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to show them the importance of wearing a cup during that time.
Hey man, I get the importance of those cups, but dude, if you have an experience where it like ends up being the reason you get hurt, like it can change your perspective, because I was diehard wear your cup until I had that experience sliding into second base, and then after that I was like, I literally couldn't play baseball for a couple weeks, because one, my cup wasn't able to cover everything anymore, and two, I was like in such pain, because anytime like there would be a jarring experience, it was just like, it wasn't good. So, but paintball would be different. You're not really like, I mean, I don't know. It depends on like, cause you guys go a little bit harder than I've ever gone, but like, there's not a lot of like super crazy, like sliding long distances, stuff like that. Like you're mainly up or like crouched and stuff. So you're not going to like slide into something and like have that happen. So I could see why a cup would be, I would wear a cup in
Yeah,
paintball, but
it was fun.
Yeah, I have a little story for you guys. Kind of relates to the cup. So the only time that I wore a cup was for football. But I didn't say this before, but in high school I also did circus for 5 years. And circus, yeah. So like Peru, it has like the biggest amateur circus or whatever, or it's the circus capital of the world. But I only did juggling, so that's all I really did. Kind of grew up in a circus family, and my stepdad went professional in the flying trapeze. He was the catcher. And so since I only did juggling, when we performed, there was a couple years there where I had to wear like it's embarrassing, but it's like a unitard. And then like
Yeah.
you have pants over it, so you don't. It's not just like just the unitard. But I'm telling you what, that thing can cause some pain if it's riding up on you.
Holy
Yeah.
moly. Like, I have so many questions. I mean, like, first off, like, one thing, just a quick little tidbit. Buying the cup, most awkward thing I could ever do, because I went with my mother and she's like, "All right, let's try the cup." She
Oh,
holds it
yeah.
up to my area, and I'm like, "No, no, no, stop!" Like, there's people here. She's like, "I wonder if we can take it out and try it on." I said, "No, no, we don't need to
Oh,
try it. I'll
yeah.
just try it when I get home and we'll return it." But then my mother's like, "We're not gonna return that. It's nasty." It was a whole awkward
So,
mess.
so she was okay with you trying it on in the store, but not okay with you trying it on at home.
You tell me that logic.
That's all. I never once, until you just said that, thought about the fact that I potentially bought a cup that somebody tried on in the store,
Yeah,
and now I'm like kind of grossed out.
but like, Corey, circus. It like, okay, so what got you into the idea of going into circus, and more or less dive deeper into what this circus is? Is it like a class? Is it
So you can start the circus in Peru. Like at, I think preschool, you can be like what's called a kiddie clown, and you're just like a
what?
little clown running around. They dress you up, and you don't really know what you're doing. But all throughout, like my whole life, I was too busy with sports. There's no way I could do this because it's basically it starts. There's winter training. I'd say there's probably at least like 30 acts, 30 different acts. So like you'd have like flying trapeze and high wire are the two biggest ones, like trampoline, all these different aerial acts like teeterboard, um, and obviously juggling. So there's stuff you do on the ground, there's acts that you do in the air, and there's hundreds of kids. And every summer, shows start on a Saturday and end the next Saturday. And each day on the weekend, you do 2 shows, and during the week, you do 1 show. Okay, and that's all the shows you do. And then there's like traveling road shows after that, just for the rest of summer. So I didn't get into it actually until my knees were messed up. So I did the golf and circus. And sometimes they overlapped because golf runs till the end of the school year. So it messed with like my practices. And my stepdad and mom, they were in the circus growing up because they both grew up in Peru. And my brother was also in it as well. And he did different stuff. He did like juggling, teeterboard, trampoline. Um, and I mean, it's kind of just like a normal thing there in Peru. Like those different schools, Macanaqua, North Miami, Peru. Those were like the 3 main schools. If you didn't do sports, you did circus. So
So like, was it like circus competitions or
yeah, so each
what?
act you had to try out, and there was like a
Yeah.
month span of tryouts. And at the end of like that period, there'd be like a certain time, like it was, I think it was like at 12 o'clock, like on a Friday, they would go outside and they would post who all made the act, like for each act. So there'd be like 30 pieces of paper, and it would have a list of names, and everybody would just crowd the board and just see if they made the act or if they made it like as an alternate kind of. Like for
Yeah.
juggling, I think we had like 28 people try out, and like 14 made the act. And it was like if you like kept practicing, you eventually made it when you're older, you know.
Yeah.
And so I did the juggling for 5 years, and it was competitive in a way to get in. But once you got in, you're almost guaranteed to make it each year. So for juggling, every performance, it would be, I believe, 8 or 9 minutes, and we'd do different formations. Like we'd have people like it'd be like a mini act every 30 seconds. So like you'd have people juggling balls, and then you would have people juggling clubs and passing to each other. And like for the finale, we would juggle fire, and like
What?
the whole stadium would go dark. Um, and there's 3 rings in the big circus building. I'd say probably the size of maybe 4 basketball courts, and then stands all along each side and on the ends. And there's like a whole band playing music, and everything would go dark, and we juggle the fire, and like everybody loved that, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
like I could imagine. Were you afraid you were gonna get burned?
yeah, I mean, like I have fire clubs. I don't like just go out and juggle anymore, but
Yeah.
like it can burn you. There was a couple times, I think 2 times, people had to go to the hospital because one guy took it in the eye, and then the
Oh,
other one took it in the face. They just for
oh.
precautions, it burned his eyebrow and eyelashes off. But the smell of burning hair is just nasty.
Ooh, that's terrible.
Anyone ever catch on fire by accident or?
Yeah, so like we would drop the heads of those fire clubs would be like a mesh and like metal around it, and you dip them in kerosene, and then you get off the excess, and then one person would have a lighter, he'd run up to the middle, everybody would put their clubs in, and it'd light them all up.
That's
And
wild.
so it was pretty cool. And
This is
obviously,
this is in Peru, Indiana, right?
yeah, Peru, Indiana.
Because some people who may not know, they're like hearing Peru, they're like,
Oh, yeah,
this man
flying
grew up
out there.
in Peru.
Mhm.
But you can look up videos. I think they have videos of a lot of performances on there. But I mean, it's just kids out there having fun, and
That,
I mean, we trained a lot for all the acts.
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, that definitely seems like a sports feat that I feel like most people don't realize of probably the agility that you need for
Yeah.
being in the circus. I mean, I just find it so different that my school never had a circus, and I've never more or less heard of that. But that's cool. It's
Yeah.
cool. Yet I don't know if
Yeah.
back then, while you were in it, if it was cool. Was that like a chick magnet or what?
It
Or
it
what?
kind of was, yeah.
Oh,
I mean, there was
snap!
a
I
lot.
know where I'm going.
I mean, not necessarily to the chicks outside circus, but
Oh,
like there's
okay.
a lot in it.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Hey, I'm telling you, when I went up the first time to see Corey, he definitely showed us what he could do. He juggled some of those flaming torches, I guess you call them. I
Yeah.
don't really know. Yeah, he did that for me, and if I was a lady, I think I'd have been down. I would have been down. It was pretty
Huh?
impressive. It was pretty impressive. Because I mean, he did it like it was nothing, and I was like, oh my god, like he's got freaking flames going by his head. Like what? It's
I'm not
nuts.
gonna lie. I would probably catch on fire if that was me. I'm just
Um,
gonna put that out
I
there.
100% would. I would have caught my
This
arm on
here,
fire.
yes, catch on fire.
Dude, I would have probably caught somebody else on fire along with myself somehow. Like would have been like, oh crap, I'm on fire. Just launched the thing, and then Corey's friend that got pelted with all of the golf balls would have gotten hit with the flaming torch.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
yeah, that would have been definitely a mishap, if you will. But with that said, I do feel that we're kind of getting to time here, so I want to ask you guys one last question. Starting with you, Corey, how do you feel more or less about the closing of sports right now? They have a lot of closing of a lot of the sports, like for instance, like when it comes to I believe they canceled a few seasons, like for what football and hockey and all that jazz. So how do you feel about that?
Working in healthcare, like I actually see like how serious this is going around, and I know it sucks as a sports lover. Like it's awesome. It's like what we all get invested into if you're into sports like that, and it passes time and it's really enjoyable and it's fun to root on your team. But I mean, like I agree with them shutting it down for now. And I know there's like different ideas circulating on like how they're going to move forward with this. And I hope none of the seasons are actually like ruined for like the NBA and the NHL and everything like that, because they put in like a lot of hard work. But in the end, I guess it's just like the safety for everybody that matters the most. But
Yeah.
but yeah.
How do you feel about it, Austin?
I mean, it's kind of funny because Corey's like, in the healthcare, and he's like, he's actually, working in the actual field while I'm in like the administration part of it. And I think it's what they had to do. They had to do it, even though it sucks. I mean, they tried their best. I mean, they tried to push it off as long as they could, but once you have players that are contracting it, and they're sweating, they're in contact with each other a lot. I mean, it's kind of the only thing you can do. I really hope they can get all of these, like the NBA and NHL and baseball, can get a full season or close to a full season in, so that people don't miss out. But I mean, at the end of the day, people's safety is more important than anything else. And I think, thankfully, I mean, our country is probably the most sports crazy country in the world. Everything in our country revolves around sports for the most part. And thankfully, people, for the most part, have been able to step back and kind of, you know what, sports is huge, and we always get the bad rap of all the Americans care about our sports. But it kind of goes to show that we're willing to sacrifice if, something crazy like this happens. And so I think it was a good idea, and hopefully it doesn't last too much longer.
Okay. And Junior, how have you felt with the being canceled?
To me, it makes sense. Definitely, the safety of people is a top concern. It does kind of suck not being able to watch the Cubs right now, but it is what it is.
Yeah. I definitely was surprised by all of it, but I generally too, I agree with all of you guys, and I think it's the right call. And I think if people have a problem with it, well, then you should probably do the Corona challenge.
Well, I think the best part is, though, once everything comes back, people are going to appreciate it 10 times more, because they're going to realize how quickly it can be taken away. Like me, I'm a big OKC Thunder fan. Like, I had kind of taken this season for granted. Now, having been basically turned off like a TV, it's kind of like, oh wow, like this could happen at any moment. So I think it's taught everybody that things can be taken away very quickly. So people appreciate sports more.
I once heard someone say that they didn't want really society to kind of go back to the regular normal, the way it was, and I can agree with that. In the idea that I hope it's better than what it was, and I hope this sort of virus stuff brings us all a little bit closer together and has us all appreciating a little bit more the things like sports and even playing them and being with your friends and stuff like that. But with that said, I thank you guys so much. Thank you both from the Red Tiger Clan. I know you guys are posting every Monday through Friday in your scheduling, so that's definitely a blast. I love playing with you guys and being a part of that as well. So everyone at home, please check them out. The link's going to be in the description yet again, and also that white notification in the top right corner. With that said, thank you to our sponsors as well, EBXYA and Lofty Cat Studios. Their links are in the description as well. Please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Junior, you got anything?
No, you got it all, man.
All right. I always just like to make sure. But with that said, see you guys later. Goodbye. We love you. Let's get right to it. Yeah. All right. And that was my I don't know, processing noise right there.
That was your booting up noise. Yeah, like a computer.
All right, here we go. Hello and welcome back from break. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to get.
I felt like you were staring into my eyes. I was like, I don't know what to to do right now.
All right, welcome back, and we would like to welcome back Corey. Gosh, okay, and